What's up, Cycle fam? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy DC. I just want you guys to take a moment to head over to Instagram. Make sure you smack that follow button for all the cycling content and any updates that I may have. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that bell notification icon so you be notified every time I post. Don't miss out on this fire content. But anyway, we are back at Roebling Raceway, day one. Bernie the Ragdoll showing us the direction of the wind, which is now a tailwind as we're coming down this stretch. You got your metrics on the screen, but first I want to support the Whoop users out there. It shows my strain on that race and also my recovery. And also the next metrics coming up will show the average speed, heart rate, average cadence, average power. Normalized power was 234. This race wasn't really that fast, so I will be jumping through some scenes. We did have a teammate off in the breakaway early in the race. So of course that first little middle section of the race, we're just sitting in the drive. We're not really doing any work, so I'm not going to bore you guys with all of that. But on your left of the screen, we got the temp. It was really hot this day. Summer sun was on us, but it did cool off towards the end because there was a storm moving in on us right at the end. That's when it dumped. But we got your speed on the left, your heart rate, and also the laps. And then on the right, we got the cadence and the power. All right, so let's get into the footage. All right, so early on, right out the gate, we did have one guy solo up the road. He did about a lap and a half by himself, and then there was another person that jumped across. So currently, as it stands, we got two guys up the road. As you can see, Ethan is right here in front of me. We got 5 guys represented in this race. We had Rome, Eddie, Edu, me, and Buff. Buff was our other guy who took the pressure off of us. He was able to make that early move along with Ethan to jump across to that break. And of course, we control the peloton by slowing it down a bit to let those guys have time to catch up. So as you can see, Ethan is doing his off. Buff's looking at it. Buff likes it, so he's going to go ahead and jump on Ethan's wheel because Ethan looked like he's committed at this point. He actually had his head down. So they both commit. We stayed off on the front of the race. We weren't blocking. I mean, this is a lot of track, so everyone had opportunity to move around. And as you can see, there was another gentleman there that jumped up. So I believe we had about 5 go up the road total. And they stayed away from the race for about, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 5 laps. So I'm gonna jump forward to about lap 7 going into 8 when we caught the break back. Of course, that's when it got very interesting. And I told the guys, I said, hey, once we get this break back, look for the attacks. They're going to be out there. Guys are going to want to jump. We're coming close to the end of the race, and that's when it got interesting. A lot of counter attacks, a lot of jumps, a lot of covering. All right, so quick fast forward here. Coming down this back stretch. This is the tailwind. As you can see, the speed is 32 miles per hour, and the whole peloton picked up the pace. Right here for us, you know, we really and truly don't want the pace to pick up. We are completely fine with the selection that's up the road. So we have to try and get back in this front move to make sure that our guys don't get caught too early. Because as long as they're up there, Buff is doing the work. So we get to take a break, we get to chill, and really just suck wheels and let other guys have to work. But once the pace started to pick up, that was our job to kind of make sure we're on the front and just kind of maintain the gap. We don't want to have guys trying to jump across. And as you can see here, Eddie's pushing up a little bit to get on the front. But then guys started to jump with him. I said, Eddie, shut it down, shut it down. So he shuts it down, and as you can see, the speed of the peloton now the peloton is disrupted, if that makes sense. So like now we're only averaging about 25, and then you see the speed is going to drop because now you have the crosswind, and then we're going to turn into the headwind. So now that whole pace has been disrupted. So now we're back to a comfortable standpoint where we don't have to worry about the break being caught too early. And as you can see with day 2, if you haven't watched that video yet, there were so many attacks, and that's because the whole peloton was together. So now that you have this break up the road, and mostly everyone is represented well in that break, the peloton is kind of settled as long as the gap is maintained. And this allows guys to kind of stay fresh, keep a smooth effort, which was why the average pace of this race was a lot slower than day 2. But this makes for less brain damage and having to drop a bunch of watch to cover attacks, cover moves. So it was a good move by our team member Buff getting in that break, and it kept the race super smooth. But once that came back together, I told the guys, I said, hey, you know, all the attacks are going to start going off. Guys are going to want to get off, especially towards the end of the race. A lot of guys in the peloton had fresh legs, so get ready for the dogfight. Here it comes. All right, so now we are at lap 7, going into lap 8. As you can see up ahead, that is the breakaway group that we have now caught. Personally, I wish we were able to wait just a little bit longer on catching this group, but everyone was motivated. And as you can see, Rome off to the left, he's doing an attack on that group. Very smart move. Very, very aggressive move. And that's just the way to animate a race. Because once the breakaway was going to be caught, people were going to take a break, and someone else probably would have attacked us. So being able to be on the offensive and not reacting, solid move by Rome, putting the peloton, some stress on the peloton going in, because everyone had fresh legs and we all knew it, and we knew that we had to start putting some wear on the group. So breakaway, we knew they were already tired. Those guys were popping off one by one. Buff was willing to do the work all the way to the line, but he was starting to lose some guys. So that's why we were able to catch the break. All right, so coming in hot from the left is Ethan. He was about to attack, but the peloton moved to the left of the road. I'm glad he was able to stay up after hitting those rumble strips. Ethan is a very, very aggressive rider. Really like this kid. 13 years old, state champion TT, knows how to ride his bike, knows how to attack, knows when he needs to get in the breakaway. He just really races smart. Props to him again, like I gave him in day 2. But he was getting ready to do an attack, realized that one wasn't going to work. Coming into the lap number 9, I noticed that we had guys on the front getting formulated, so I went ahead and positioned and moved myself up, getting that little train that we have, trying to see what we can do. As you will see, which I'll fast forward, Ethan does not like seeing us control races, so he started to attack us a good bit, but we were to task. We were on him, but right here you can see I slot in. Did have a guy right there to my right, but I just did it in the most respectful way to slot in when I knew the guys were going to take the left side of the road, and I just stayed on Eddie's wheel. All right, so skipping ahead, we got a flyer going off to the right. I yelled to the guys ahead, there's an attack, look for it. Rome is on it, Buff's on it. I went ahead and jumped this gap just in case it was something interesting. But Ethan had other plans. He took the time to do a counter. I yelled to the guys, but they already did their work, so I went ahead and jumped on Ethan's wheel. Not ideal. This was essentially like doing a double sprint. So now I've managed to burn a match and a half, even 2 matches, and then Ethan shoots out the elbow. I was kind of hoping Ethan would decide to keep his head down and see what he can do again. But for note, on any other races, I know now that as a team, if we kept the front really fast and just kept rotating out, we would have stopped any motivated attacks to happen that would break up the line. So Ethan noticed that. Like I said, smart racing by him, but I'm not the guy that's going to put my head down in the wind. I can do an effort, but with my profile, I can have big punchy power, but sitting out there in the wind for way too long is not really for me. And I made that amateur mistake towards the very end of the race, which I'll show you guys. But here's Ryan in front of me. I believe this is Ryan from Velo Brew Crew. Same team as Ethan. He gets in front, does a pull, but in my head, I know that when Ryan is on the front, Ethan right now is probably getting some rest. So I'm expecting another attack to come at some point. Also, side note, my max heart rate is about 203, 204. So if you see me in the 180s, 170s, I'm decently comfortable. But once I start getting into the 190s, yeah, I'm dying. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so here goes Ethan. I dropped this big wop bomb just to jump up here. And I'm hoping, I was like, okay. I saw him do an attack like this early on, and that was the one he was willing to stick with. So let's see what happens. Sits up. I was like, damn you, Ethan. So now I'm hot. I'm at 190 now. I'm in the hurt locker a little bit at this point because I dropped 3 matches. Really that most recent match that I dropped is the match I would have rather saved for the sprint. Like I said, this race normally comes to a bunch sprint every time, so this was not a smart move by me. But I felt like Ethan had that in his bag to stay away, and I didn't want any breaks getting away this late in the race. So I'm gonna fast forward again and skip through because there's some parts here that kind of is like a lull state, nothing much really happening. But there was another moment I did that was not the best move. That's where I should have sat in and rested, and that was on the very last lap. So we're gonna skip forward to the very last lap. I'm gonna let that play through and show you guys what happened. But before we get to this last lap, guys, look at this team effort. Solid. Ethan goes. Edu is on it. Buff is on it. Roe is on it. That is perfect. After doing some covers, I didn't have to go back and cover that attack, given I was pretty much on the cliff and I was ready to jump. But there it is. Those guys were able to cover it. The peloton is motivated at this point to not let any Mac Racing guys get off in any moves, so they will be following everything. So the race is inevitably going to be together, going to be a bunch sprint. As you can see, the storm is moving in ahead. This is at this point, the wind is now a headwind. So now we're going into the last lap, and I'm going to fast forward just a bit right there at the end where I made this really silly move. And I should have waited. I went early, and at this point I'm pretty burnt up. So I'm gonna skip through and show you that move, and you guys are probably gonna be like, dang, Donovan, that is like a boneheaded move. But it was such an opportunity, I had to take it. So Ethan was up the road a little bit. We caught him, and the peloton started to slow down. So I was like, shoot, why not? I shoot straight up the middle because I saw my guys right there on the front, so I knew this was the opportunity to see what I could do. Guys, if you look on the map, look at where we are. I'm too far from the finish line to be doing this with my heart rate bouncing at 193, 192. And at this point, I'm hoping, like, after doing that bit of an energy dump, hopefully I'm able to recover. Hopefully my heart rate at least drops down into 185 and I can manage. But I was not recovering at all. I was burnt up. I'm looking around. I'm just like, do I just fall back? Do I put my head down and try? Heart rate's still going up, not coming down. So at this point, I'm just like, well, that's your race. You went early, and it was just this move alone that I did that when it came down to the sprint, I just stayed in the field and sat down and spun all the way like everybody else. But Rome had enough. He had that last match. He was able to sprint and contest the sprint. So proud of that. It was a team effort that we had to get that done. I'm going to fast forward to that last second where everyone is bunched up trying to get to that line. Look at this. 201. Guys, and it was after this weekend I did not realize my heart rate can max out that much. I thought my max heart rate was 192, and I guess with my fitness, my max heart rate increased. Not sure if that makes any sense, but I didn't know that I can push to that level. So yeah, let's get forward to the bunch sprint. All right, so I'm finally dissolved by the peloton. The team did a great job trying to help keep me away, but I just didn't have it. Sprint starting up here. Ryan was up there just a little bit, but here we go. Guys, this had to have been the slowest sprint. Look at my power. It's barely hanging on. I had nothing left. But if you look at the very top right corner, you see Rome really going for it. Buff had an opportunity to go for it too, but he actually lost he unclipped during his sprint. Glad he was able to stay up. But as you can see, storms coming in. We're sprinting into the headwind, and that is the race, ladies and gentlemen. Really fun race. I love coming out here to race in Savannah. Racing on a raceway. It's notified to be a road race, but it races like a crick because it's on a closed course. If you haven't done this race, I suggest doing it. You can try so many things that you normally don't do in a race because it's flat. And the wind is the big element and factor because it's such an open space. But if you ever get the chance, race out here and try it out, man. But anyway, guys, thanks for stopping by and watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share. It really helps the channel out. Let's get this thing off the ground. Peace.